But anyway, we are here to learn a little bit more about the Word. And so last week, who remembers what we... Oh, where's my clicker? Got my clicker. Do you remember what we learned about last week? Anyone? That was not last week, it wasn't born.
Oh, was it talking to Gabriel talking to Mary?
Yes, Gabriel talking to Mary, and then who else was involved? Yes. Joseph was involved. Okay, so we're going to move on a little bit more in the story. We're now going to be in Luke 2, and so we're going to be in a little bit of a different area here. So where were we last week? Do you remember which area we were in last week? Nazareth. Okay. And does anyone know exactly where we're going to be today? Where was Jesus born? Bethlehem. Okay. So we're going to be in Bethlehem. Now, my eyes get really bad. I can't actually see that map. Can anyone actually see where Nazareth is?
It's in the bottom.
There's
Bottom
Galilee.
left.
Where's Nazareth? Do you remember?
It's up. Bottom left of Galilee.
It's in the yellow.
Up,
Bottom left of Galilee.
Up, left to go. There we go. Left to Galilee. Even Brady can't find it. It's very. There we go. Okay. So it's a pretty long journey that Joseph and Mary had to make all the way from Nazareth to Bethlehem. There are several different routes, although the most common one was probably the two that are listed up here. They were probably going to walk all the way next to the river, probably on a donkey as well. Because it was a lot cooler if they were going to be right next to the river, and they could also pull water as well if they ever got thirsty. So there was a census, and so there was this guy who was called, well let's just see, there's a picture of Bethlehem right there. It's actually not the picture. If you notice in the back there's actually a person standing up, it's a miniature model of it, but that's apparently what it would have looked like. So our first Bible verse, who would like to read this?
In those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that the whole empire should be registered.
Okay, so here we are. Here's the reason why Mary and Joseph had to go. There was a census. Now, the reason for the census wasn't really because they wanted to know how many people there were. It was, but the main reason was they wanted to tax them, okay? So, say we're in Washington, D.C., and right now you guys are all in Fairfax right now, and suddenly, I almost said President Obama, President Trump suddenly says, I think we're going to raise taxes, I don't know how many people there are, all you guys got to come to D.C., and I'm going to count you so I can get more money. So it basically would be something a little like that. Now, the Roman Empire, who was Caesar Augustus? So anyone know who he was?
He was the first emperor.
Correct. Very good. You must be a history major. Correct. So the Roman Empire was huge. It spanned at this time, at the point of where Jesus was about to be born, the Roman Empire was absolutely huge. It basically covered most of Europe and most of northern Africa. It was absolutely huge. And so, of course, they wanted more money because they had to run the entire operation. Now, Caesar Augustus, he was basically lived here in Rome. Rome was the capital of the Romans. In which country is Rome right now? Italy, okay? So that's exactly where it was. And here is the man himself, a very well-known man, very powerful man. He's also very young when he came into power. And so by doing the census and the taxation, this was basically stamping his authority. So I'm going to show you guys what I can do. Okay, let's read the next verse. Who would like to read the next two verses? Yes, Mel.
The first registration took place when Quirinius was governing Syria. So everyone went to be registered, each to his own town.
So who was Mr. Q? Anyone know who he was? Yeah, you probably don't know who he was, but he was the governor of Syria at the time. And so basically he was the one who was the first one to start the taxation, and so everyone had to go to the town to register. This is the area of Syria we have right here, also known as Aram, and apparently this is him. And we know that because on the right-hand side there's a Greek inscription there that says his name. I have no idea, I'm just guessing. Google says it, so Google must be great. Okay, so who would like to read the next two verses?
Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to the city of David, to be registered along with Mary, who was engaged to him when he was pregnant.
Okay, so we learned about the engagement process last week. So basically they were married at this point, so they were traveling. Mary was probably 8 months pregnant, So you can imagine the journey of trying to get a pregnant woman and her husband all the way. Does anyone know how far Bethlehem to Nazareth probably was?
Too long.
Too long, yes. Approximately 90 miles, which in those days is a long way. The roads are bad, you have to travel on a donkey, there's no cars or anything like that, and you've got a lady who's 8 months pregnant, carrying the Messiah, and they're on these horrible, nasty roads on a donkey. Not the most pleasant experience. So, once they got there, this is what happened. Who would like to read this?
While they were there, the time came for her to give birth. Then she gave birth to her firstborn son, and she wrapped him tightly in cloth and laid him in a manger because there was no guest room available.
Okay, awesome. So, where was Jesus born?
Manger.
In a manger. He was born in the manger? Who said stable? Yeah? Anyone else? Does everyone agree he was born in the stable? Okay. Open your Bibles up. And we'll get some Bibles. And I want you to show me where it says he was born in the stable. Anyone found it yet?
Wait.
Okay, it is not there. It's not there. And you want to know what? I believed it was there maybe 3 weeks ago. Until I started looking in the Bible and was like, wait a minute. Jesus wasn't born in a stable. It doesn't say he was born in a stable. So how could he possibly have been born in a stable? Okay, so here is what I have discovered through my research, okay? And also, I'm reading the original Greek text as well. The original Greek text gives us the right language, okay? So this is probably where Jesus was born, in a house. But underneath the house was a room that was like a stable, okay? So this is the actual theory where Jesus was born. So, in the first century Israelite houses, underneath they had an area which was kept for animals. So the animals would have been outside, but they were brought inside during the night time where they could stay, and there would have been a manger fixed to the side of the house inside the room. And so that's where the mistranslation comes. Because of the word manger, they just thought it was outside in the stable, but there's nothing in the text, even in the original Greek text, that suggests it was a stable. It says manger, and it says house. So we looked at the word house, which is oikia, and that's the word for house. Now, the one thing, because there's a lot of discrepancy, it says, was Jesus born in the inn? Was he born in an inn? Or did he go to an inn? Or was there an innkeeper?
There was no room.
There was no room in the inn? Where in the Bible does it say that? I tell you, my mind's been blown with these last couple.
We sing all these songs and everything.
I know, isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing? So here's the, by the way, that's a manger, by the way. So that's actually where Jesus was actually laid. And there would have been straw in it. So do you see on the right-hand side, there's the house there, and there would have been a manger right in the corner over there. And that's probably what would have been underneath the house, where Jesus would have been born.
And it's not wooden like you think.
No, it's not wooden. It's actually because you've got a bunch of big animals, like pigs and donkeys, coming in, crashing and trying to get their food. So it wouldn't have been made of wood, it would have been made of stone, because of course they would have destroyed the whole thing. So I just want to go back to the Luke text. So do you see the room? Because there was no guest room available. Now guest room, and I'm going all Greek today, I think. Guest room in Greek actually means 3 different words. And it also could possibly mean inn. But most translators agree that it's probably guest room. So what likely happened was, Joseph and Mary were probably staying with family in Bethlehem, because they were from the line of David, and the line of David, you had to go to a certain town, and it was the town of Bethlehem, because the town of Bethlehem was otherwise known as,
The hometown of David.
not the hometown,
The birthplace of Jesus?
yes,
But that's
it had another name. The city of David. The city of David. So it's likely that all of Joseph and Mary's family came to that area, and they may have had family who were staying there, or possibly renting a room. And it could have been an inn because of the guest room there and the translation. Okay, I'm going to move on because I'm going too technical right now. But it was likely that when they got there, because they had come such a long way, there was no room in that house. And so he was probably born upstairs, and because there was nowhere for him to be laid, they went downstairs where the animals were and put it in the manger down there because there was nowhere else for him to be laid, okay? Again, this is all just theory and everything, but if you look at everything through the history and everything and all the technical stuff, this is probably what happened, which is a far cry from being born in a stable, okay? I just want you guys to think about it, because when we look at the text, it reveals something very different to what we've been told as children and maybe adults, that he was born in a stable, and there was donkeys, and there was all this there. It's very different to what the text says. So, you know, my lesson here is always read the text, because, and if you can read Greek, read the Greek text, because it'll tell you a whole different story. Okay, so we're going to move on to shepherds. Who here knows what a shepherd is?
That guy with the candy cane shaped staff.
The guy with the candy cane shaped staff. Yes, those guys. So, the next, in this text here, who would like to say this?
In the same region, shepherds were staying out in the fields and keeping watch at night over their flocks.
Good. So here we have a picture of some shepherds watching their flocks by night. So being a shepherd was actually considered a pretty low-paying job and not a nice job to do. In Moses' time, it was actually considered a woman's job. So when Moses became a shepherd, that was one of the lowest positions you could possibly take then. Then culture changed, and then it became more of a man's position. But it was considered a position that nobody wanted to do. In fact, shepherds had a really bad name. A lot of them were considered to be thieves. A lot of them were considered not to be, you know, very happy people. They just really, it was a job nobody wanted to do, because what have you got to do as a shepherd, and especially at night? Sit and watch, and you can't fall asleep, okay? So if you fall asleep, wake up, most of your sheep have probably wandered off. And so their job was basically to make sure they didn't wander off and didn't get eaten by some big, crazy animal. Yes?
Then an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel of the Lord said to them, "Don't be afraid, for look, I proclaim to you good news of great joy that will be fulfilled."
All right, so immediately these guys are just standing around watching their sheep like, oh, it's another night where lots of sheep, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, now I'm falling asleep. And then suddenly, in the middle of nowhere, an angel appears. And what do angels usually say when they appear?
Don't be afraid!
Don't be afraid! Because what does an angel look like?
We don't know.
Don't know. But if we read the description of Daniel from last week, what does it say? Do you remember?
No, they're like
robes,
fiery
like
eyes.
shining.
Fiery eyes, lightning, big giant gold belts, body full of crazy stuff, eyes all over the place. They're probably a bit scary to look at. In fact, they're probably very scary to look at. Also, if an angel appears, it's probably a loud noise, probably like a rocket ship landing, and I would be pretty scared if an angel landed right in front of me right now. Okay, so of course they have to say, do not be afraid, because they want the shepherds to not be afraid, want them to listen. I proclaim to you good noise of great joy, and that will be for all the people. So who would like to say, read the next verse?
Today in the city of David a Savior was born for you. This is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be the sign for you. You will find a baby wrapped tightly in cloth and laying in it.
And then who would like to read the next one? Yes.
Suddenly there was a multitude of the heavenly hosts of the angel praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest heaven, and peace on earth to people who fear Him.
So we have one angel, and then suddenly we have thousands of angels suddenly appearing. And honestly, I tried to find a video, but I guess no one has ever been able to recreate this very well. And the ones I saw are really bad. But this is, I actually really like these images here, because I would imagine the sky was probably filled with angels. Now some translations say they were singing, some translations say they were saying the following: Glory to God in the highest heaven and peace on earth to people He favors. So you can try, let's say that together.
Glory to God in the highest heaven, and peace on earth to people He favors.
Now say it again, really loud.
Glory to God in the highest heaven, and peace on earth to people He favors.
Okay, so it sounded like that, except it was 1 billion times louder. Now let's sing it.
Glory to God.
Okay, unless we know the tune, let's sing it to the tune of, I don't know. Mary Had a Little Lamb. Okay, here we go. Glory to God in the highest heaven, and peace on earth to people he favours. Well, that worked out real well. And hopefully it didn't sound that bad. Okay, but whatever it was pretty darn spectacular for you to suddenly be a shepherd looking after a couple of sheep, and suddenly the whole earth, the whole sky is filled with thousands of angels singing or speaking those words. So who would like to read this next line?
When the angels had left them and returned to heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go straight to Bethlehem and see what has happened, which the Lord has made known to us."
So this was such a spectacular event that the shepherds were like, all right, we're just going to leave our sheep, we're going to go head to Bethlehem. The gospel is for everybody, and God wanted to proclaim to the lowest of the low by saying, this is for everyone, this is for you, and I want you to be some of the first people to go see Jesus. And just like Kat said, he is the good shepherd, so it would be very prolific and make reason for the shepherds to be some of the first people to go visit Jesus. So, who would like to read these 3 verses?
They hurried off and found both Mary and Joseph, and the baby who was lying in the manger. After seeing him, they reported the message they were told of this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them.
So, not only did the shepherds go visit Jesus, they were so excited, they basically told everybody what was going on. Even on the way, they're like, oh my gosh, we're going to see Jesus, he's the Savior, he's been born. They were so excited, they just had to tell everybody. But there are the shepherds, and they're looking over, and they're probably thinking, wow, isn't that amazing? We were some of the first people to get to see the most important person that was ever born in the history of history. And so they were so super excited. But Mary was treasuring up all these things in her heart and meditating on them. So she had a very, very different perspective to the shepherds, who were so excited. They were just extremely excited. Oh my gosh, this is the Messiah. But Mary was just treasuring them up. She was being really quiet. She's really taking in what had just happened. She just given birth to the Messiah. And she carried him for all this time. And of course, she would have had to have gone through a period of danger as well, because if you'd been discovered to be pregnant outside of marriage, you would have been stoned to death. So Joseph had done a really good job protecting her. So she is really just really taking it all in, seeing all these people come in and really visiting the Messiah. And so, who would like to read this final verse?
The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had seen and heard, which were just as they had been told.
So the shepherds have seen Jesus, and again, not only have they told people all on the way, now they're going to go out into the world and tell everybody. And they probably would have had to have gone all the way back to the fields and continued looking after the sheep. But they were now witnesses to this incredible event, and they were about to tell everyone in the whole wide world.